PDR Tool Time, your industry podcast, tools, reviews, and stories.
Welcome to another episode of PDR Tool Time, episode 129. And today we got a packed house. We got Vince D'Alessandro, John Redstrom, Paul Kordon, and Dave Schaulat, and myself, Daniel Grom. Welcome, guys.
Hey, what's happening?
Whoa!
Yeah.
So this is Shark Week, and we got two big sharks that we got. We got Paul Kordon. He's the great white. He will take big bites out of customers, and then we have the tiger shark, Dave Schaulat.
Tiger or bull shark? Which one's worse?
Ooh, they're both nasty.
They're both nasty.
Yeah.
I think I'd rather take on a great white than a tiger or a bull.
Yeah.
And I like Shark Week.
I do like Shark
Don't
Week.
you love Shark Week?
I do.
Shark Week.
I'm such a nerd.
Yeah. Did any of you guys watch Shaq?
No, I missed that one.
He gets into the cage, right? And he's in the cage, and the sharks are swarming around, and then this little baby one swims through the window and gets in the cage with him.
Oh.
And everybody's freaking out. He comes out. He just got this look on his face, and it's just priceless. That look, and he's like, "Did you get that? Did you get that? Did you get that?"
That's awesome.
Well, really, was it a baby? Because the man is huge. Have you ever seen Shaq in person?
Yeah, it was a smaller shark because it fit through the window.
Gotcha.
And then they had this other comedian guy, and they go, "Who put windows in the cage? How was that a good idea?" It was pretty funny.
Yeah, my niece. Yeah, right. My niece actually used to work for Discovery Channel, so she used to send us a whole bunch of stuff for Shark Week and all these little gizmos and whatnot. It was pretty cool. Now she works for Snapchat, which sucks.
Yeah.
So, anyways, we do have a jam-packed show. You're probably not going to hear from me too much, and Daniel and John, because we're going to unleash this episode on Dave Schaulat, which has been on our show before, talking about the wholesale market, and Paul, which is the guru of price fixing, right?
And the whole idea,
And collusion.
yeah, and collusion.
Throw that in there.
The whole thing, what we are trying to accomplish here, guys, is we're trying to figure out a way of how to raise wholesale prices. You know, I hear from guys all the time, there's no way we can raise prices and get paid more. There's too much competition. There's too many guys willing to come in right behind me if I raise my prices and charge less. So we're trying to figure out how to solve this problem.
Yeah. And fortunately, Daniel, we brought on two people that are very successful at doing that in a wholesale market. Dave, you want to introduce yourself and there's people that don't know who you are. Quickly.
I'm
Dave.
Hi, Dave.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Dave.
Where are you from, Dave?
I've been on the show before. Thank you, Vince. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, John. And good afternoon, Paul. Or good evening to you, I suppose.
Good evening, sir.
I'm assuming you're home.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I'm David Schaulat. I am a veteran in the PDR industry. Been on a time or two before. Made my rounds. Had a great run and career in this industry. 27 years and counting, and have been touched and blessed to have seen multiple facets in this industry, including commercial hail, time in Europe, acquisitions, door ding routes, rental cars, retails, airplanes, you name it, I've seen it, and been very fortunate to do that.
And where do you find yourself now?
I find myself now in the beautiful downtown Phoenix, Arizona.
And
did you start when you were 7?
It is.
You don't look
hot.
old enough to have 27 years on you, man.
It is so hot here. The weatherman said it would be nicer down where Satan is rather than here in Phoenix today.
All right. I believe it. You know, Paul, oddly enough, Dave and I go back a long ways. We both work for Dent Wizard. And when I came out of training, Dave was one of my, what would you say, go-to guy that cleaned up the work that I screw up?
I wouldn't go that far, but certainly it was a it was a pleasure to have you fresh out of training and a lot of people that came through the ranks that way. And, it's like today, the discussion is, what do you do with the new guys now, and how much better is it or worse is it? And what are you facing as you get into the industry now? We were kind of pioneers back then, weren't we, Benny?
We were, absolutely. I'm proud of that.
Ready, fire, aim.
Yeah. That was pretty much it.
Yeah. But we had fun and we all learned, and you knew the guy busted his butt when he had a whole bunch of tools scattered on the ground around him.
Exactly.
You knew he tried everything he had in his arsenal.
And Dave and I both grew up in Chicago. Well, actually, you were St. Louis, but you worked in Chicago, and that's where I met you. And
Correct.
if you remember, negative 30 degree or negative 100 degree boots and our Carhartts, going through dollar rental at O'Hare Airport with our tools on a sled, still having to do door dings in the middle of the winter, right?
On Dodge Intrepids.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Dodge Intrepids and
the manager at Dollar.
And Sebring convertibles.
Sebring convertibles.
And Sebring
Well, not too many convertibles in Chicago, but
And the manager's name at Dollar Vince was
I forgot his name.
Gordon Dickey.
Gordon Dickey, that's right, Gordon Dickey.
Ding, ding, ding. Gordon Dickey for the win.
Yes.
So let me ask you this question, Dave. So how can we solve this problem for all the wholesalers out there? How can we raise their prices? How can they get paid more at their current lots and with competition all around them? Like a typical guy in LA, for instance, that's got 100 other dent guys willing to come in and do a dent cheaper. Do you have an answer for that?
I don't have a magical solution. I wish I did. I think we all wish we had that magic solution. But, Daniel, what I believe exists is a formula that you can apply. And, Paul made mention of this a couple weeks ago on the podcast. It's going to be a very slow and steady turn to get that ship going in the right direction. It's not going to happen overnight. Okay.
I agree.
I believe everybody that'll listen has got to understand that and probably will agree to that. So it's a slow and steady process, but it's continual and repetitive reminding and education and direction. Okay. And Paul said a very long time ago, and I can't remember when, I'm sorry, Paul, said,
I don't remember either. That's
when I tell you, you'll remember. On the wholesale invoices, you put down the suggested retail price, and then you can discount from there to your customer and showing an enormous discount if need be. This will be a regional piece. I'm not going to get into specifics and markets because the country's too big. But Paul, you had mentioned, I can't remember the specifics of it, but you said on your invoicing, you can, for wholesale pricing or for wholesale accounts, you show that suggested retail price, you discount it from there, and that's their deal. And that's the smoking deal you give your customer, but yet you're still reinforcing this top price that, hey, listen, gang, this is where the price should be. And I'm not going to go there, but it should be higher than, of course, conventional pricing because we're a better repair. That's another issue in another store. But we start at that high price. Here's your discount, and here's your savings on it. And then you have to post-sell on top of it. But it's a multiple three or four step process in my book, Daniel, to get to that point where you begin to right the ship. And as we go through tonight, let's touch on it and we'll go there.
Cool. Yeah. So I gotta say, I 100% agree with Dave. And I think the value behind doing what you just said, Dave, is getting people's minds and eyes used to seeing the suggested retail price, because what you're doing is you're training them for the future. And we kind of touched on that too, is like every single time they see an invoice, every time they see, that discount from the suggested retail price, you're training their brain for the future and whatever direction that'll be. Hopefully the money goes up from there, but that's the value and the importance of doing what Dave suggested, is that you're just constantly always training people with what they're seeing, what they're used to, and getting their minds around what things should be versus the way that they currently are. So I wholeheartedly agree.
I've got two examples. I don't mean to jump in, but I've got two examples. This morning I did a crease on a Mercedes Sprinter. right quarter panel, horrible panel to work on to begin with. And it had the body shop called. They do the work for the Mercedes account. They said, we've got this brand new Sprinter. It's a flea flicker of a dent. Right. We all know how that turns out. And it ends up being a very slight 24-inch crease from the taillight towards the wheel. And it's slight enough that you don't really notice it. But what you notice is the start and the end point. You guys understand that, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
And so I said to the body shop owner, I said, listen, this isn't quite your start and stop. Not so easy to do here. This was yesterday. So I went out, I outlined it. I sent him a text message and a photo of it. I said, listen, I'm going to be at $500 on this thing. The suggested retail is $1,300 on a 24-inch dent. You price it how you want. You mark up my bill wherever you want to go, but it's not your simple start and stop couple of door dings that you think it is. Go take a look at it. I've got to let the vehicle cool down. There's going to be some glue pulling. I'd rather do it tomorrow morning, meaning this morning. And so that's how I left it. So I got there this morning. The owner comes by and says, I didn't see that. I'm very sorry. I said, I get it. That's why I'm here. I'm here to back it up. And then on my invoice, I put down, here's my price at $500. The body shop can mark it up to the dealership because they're not painting the vehicle. There's no disclosure, et cetera. The benefit to that. And here's my MSRP on it. And, to use an automotive term, whatever we term it in this industry, MSRP, we all understand, manufacturer suggested retail price. Everybody sees it on the car deal. Everybody sees it on the window ticket. Why can't we have a suggested retail price for the PDR business? And then we have our discount from there.
Absolutely.
We can. At this point, it's up to us until the get the software to do it.
That's
awesome.
how that's how I do it with my body shops. I charge retail, but the body shop gets a percentage discount. So they see my retail price, they see the discount, and then they see their price. Is that how you're doing it?
I put in my description of what I did, and then I do a little parentheses thing, and I just kind of ad lib, if you will. I put a little parentheses in as, a suggested retail price or suggested damage per the evaluators. Go ahead.
Are you using software?
I am not using software as we know it.
Okay.
What?
Don't shoot me, John. That's my neck. Listen, I can't. I'm a horrible liar. Yes. No. I'm. Look, it's on the to-do list, John. All right.
We'll talk about it at MTE.
We'll go down.
John, you and I are going to have a long conversation at MTE. I mean, I'm sorry, not John, Dave.
That's fine, young man.
Where I'll be learning everything that I don't know.
Hang on, doctor. Anyway,
I love that.
Yes, sir.
No, that's automated now.
Yes, I understand that. Point being, I incorporate it into my use, and that's the point here. Yeah. I'm sorry, John. I love you.
No. Actually, that goes right back to what we discussed when we were discussing this. We weren't just saying you need to use software if you're going to raise your prices. Being consistent, you're showing that retail value, and then giving them the discount, showing them but they see that number that holds that standard.
Right.
So then if a customer comes through the door and they're trying to sell it and they're looking at it, and we've all done, everybody who's ever done a dealer has had a dealer to, oh yeah, that's like $50.
Right.
And you get there and it's like, oh,
yeah.
It's a painless collision repair now, all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Or the retail. Oh yeah, Joe at the dealership said you do it for $50.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Right.
Now they're starting to see that pricing, and that pricing model always gets stuck in their head.
Yep.
Now,
plus, it's a dealer. You work their ego over pretty hard when you show them a 70% discount.
Oh, sure. Now,
right.
Now, not every one of our listeners uses Mobile Tech RX. Why, I don't know, but I'm hoping the vast majority of them do. But for the ones that don't, do you actually use a price guide? Because I know you showed us something on the screen, but this is a podcast, and not everyone could see. No one could see what we're doing.
Yeah.
So when you price things, do you use some type of price guide?
I have two.
Okay.
Now, I have the one that everybody's hijacked from our good friend PK, which
the Paul Kordon
starts at the 100.5 and goes up, and that's everywhere and anywhere. And if people aren't familiar and not using it, I'm terribly sorry, but let's get with 2018 and get a copy of it and use it.
Now,
change the name on it, copy and paste, and get your name on it.
Now, one of the things I do with those, because I do use a price guide when I go out to look at a retail car, and my terminology is this is the industry standard pricing. So now the negotiation begins. Whether I get that price or close to it or whatever, at least there's a guideline that customer sees. Like, oh wow, okay. All right, that's a $900 crease, and you're going to do it for $600? Okay, no problem. And they feel like they're getting a deal. Because everyone out here, I'm sure nationwide, everyone wants to feel like they're getting a deal.
They got the deal.
Yeah.
So I do, and much like you, Vince, if I go mobile to a retail customer, I pull it out. I've got this is the shortened version. This goes to 5 inches because I've got a smaller compact version. Pricing
Pardon me while I whip this out.
Pricing, does go to the 30-inch version on the damage, but I'll pull this out. Pardon me while I whip this out. Right. I measure the dent. This is an industry standard pricing. Our pricing is based on size, not labor hours, not anything different.
Sure.
And then you measure it. And again, just like you said, Vince, you've got a menu now.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to argue. You don't go to McDonald's and you ask for a Big Mac and say, oh, by the way, I'm only going to pay the cheeseburger price at $1.60.
Exactly.
You're getting arrested. Okay.
Yeah.
You're out the door.
Now,
but you have a menu price, much like the dealerships and the body shops have a price posted for their labor rates. It is what it is. And the bottom line is, who are these dealers to tell us what we're charging in our business? It's my business.
Sure.
You're not telling me what I'm charging you.
Yeah. And I think that's the important thing too, because we're talking about wholesale on this episode, and it works on the retail level much easier because people aren't familiar with paintless dent removal as much as a wholesale level that deals with PDR throughout the years. They're familiar with it. So what you're saying is you're using that same price guide for the wholesale level when you're going into a dealership or you're going into a body shop and say, hey, this is the industry standard, buddy. We'll get you cheaper than this, but this is what we're going for, right?
Right. And certainly on the consumer pay piece, be it at a service drive or be it at the body shop, you want them to be in line with where you're going to be retail wise. Because and I choose to use the term individual customer, not retail, because that sounds higher, but that's my little cliche, thing that I've got going. But you want your customers to be charging $150 for your door ding, same as you would as a retail call out, because then you're in line. Now you can give the margin then to the shop because they're calling you, and it's hopefully a wholesale account where you get some volume, and obviously you're going to build in some value for them and some margin for them, and that's an easy thing to do.
Sure.
So yes, I tout my little pricing guide. I've got it printed on plastic stock. It doesn't tear. It's not laminated. It's not cheesy.
I give them out to the shops I work at.
Absolutely. Every place I go, I lay them out, whether it's the credit card size one, whether it's my medium size one or my old school original laminated one. I give those to, the customers that are going to be in a position where they can do the markup. Right. And that's a part of the wholesale component. So now I think, go ahead, Daniel.
So here's one thing that I think the wholesale market is missing out on, and something that I've done for years, and it's worked well for me. So I have a standard first panel, first car charge. So when I go to a car lot, my minimum is higher for the first car. And the reason I do that is because sometimes you get a call from a car lot and they only want you to do one car. You don't have the volume there, or a body shop, for instance. So I have my first panel charge is $85 minimum. I'm going there, I'm setting up. It takes me a while to get there, traffic and all that, time to set up. And if they get more cars, then it goes down to the lower panel charge. But I call it the drop of the flag, is when you get into a cab and before you even move, they drop the flag and you're paying $5 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
The drop of the flag.
Sure.
And you haven't even moved yet. Right. And I like to see that be a standard. What do you think of that?
I think that's fantastic. And I just had this discussion the other day with a buddy of mine. We've got a mutual friend who is the cheap dent guy, okay? And we kind of, we're attempting to convince him, and it's a difficult one to do, but you're 100% right. And regardless of if it's a call out or if it's your normal service, you've got to have a higher initial fee because you've gone and either answered the call or walked the lot and taken your time and energy to do that and get there.
You're already financially invested in it. Yeah, you're financially invested.
You can't find an accountant, John, that'll tell you can drive there for less than $65. So in theory, Daniel, your first dent's $15 based on your time, gas, depreciation, mileage, insurance, expenses, etc. to get there.
Exactly.
Right? I think everybody gets that.
Yeah.
The problem, I think, is the human psyche, the dent guy psyche. We just don't think we're worth it. Nobody wants to man up and have a set of balls and do it.
I think it's.
Can I say that on this podcast?
Yes. Yeah. Balls are okay.
Balls are okay. The thing that the guys have to understand is you're conditioning that account to give you volume by having that higher price.
I really like that. That's the first time I've heard that, Daniel, and I think that's a really awesome idea. Combining that with showing the discount of what it would cost if that was an off-the-street customer, you're really putting all of that forward on those accounts that, look, I am a legitimate business. I might be working as a subcontractor on your lot, but that is my business.
Yeah.
I'm not just a Yahoo.
Yeah.
I'm not washing your window at the stoplight.
Yeah.
This is a legitimate thing.
John, you have already taken words out of my mouth that I was going to hit on later. This is a business.
A business. Exactly.
We have to stop drinking with these guys after hours, having coffee and donuts and the buddy nonsense, and look at it as a business. Period. It's a business. And then, Daniel, back to your point, there is a volume piece, and we'll get into this. I'm very excited about this episode.
Yeah, I really like what you guys are coming up with.
Paul, jump in, please.
Well, the one thing.
I would love to say something, but you're taking the words out of my mouth. I love it. You might be my new man crush. I don't know.
Ooh.
The one thing I think is really important also is making friends with your competition.
Absolutely.
Not treating them like enemies and making friends with them and saying, hey, have you guys listened to PDR College? Have you guys listened to PDR Tool Time?
Give them price guides.
And give them price guides. And, start educating them that those things are available to them so they can start plugging in and start listening to them. Because honestly, it was Paul Kordon that got me out of my box that I was in. When I started hearing Paul getting the prices he was getting, I was like, well, why can't I get that? Is the question I asked myself. And as soon as I asked that question, I started getting that answer. I can get those prices.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But also the other thing about making sure you're close with your competition and being friends, if that dealership tries to sell you under, your friend, a true friend, will call. And I know several dent companies in large metro markets that have told me this exact story. Oh, yeah, they called, and he called me up right away and was like, hey, dude, your dealer just called me. Mm-hmm. What's going on? How do you want me to hit this? How do you want me to play this? Because I'm not stepping on your toes. And you're not going to do that if you're over there smacking each other around and calling each other's names. You're not going to get that done.
Yeah.
Help each other and control your market.
Absolutely.
You're so right.
Absolutely.
I was going to tell you. So there was a guy in. There is a guy in my market that we've known each other. We go way back. We've known each other since I started pushing dents. He did part of my training, and also we have just been personal friends for a very long time. And he now lives kind of in a totally different county, city, and our markets are kind of far apart. We don't work for the same company anymore, but for a long time, and even now, we would be the two guys that would often get called in on some of the higher end dealers, the Ferraris and the Porsches and stuff like that. And of course, we both had pretty astronomical prices, and we were both pretty good at fixing bigger dents. So for a while, because we would end up competing against each other, we would constantly stay in touch. And I go, hey man, they called me about this Ferrari and this dent. I put X dollars on it. Just want to let you know in case they go shopping around, let's kind of band together and make sure that we're sticking to our guns on the pricing. That way they're not playing us against each other. I mean, at that point, and we were both on the same page. And at that point, for him and I, it wasn't as much about competition, he versus me, as it was us versus the dealers. Does that make sense? So it versus them. So we had a bit of solidarity between the two of us on our pricing structure, because we both believed that we were worth it, and we both knew that we could do the work to the level that these guys were expecting.
And that's a very important statement, Paul.
It was a great relationship. It still is.
Example. Great.
But
I'm worth it.
I'm telling you. Yeah.
We're worth it.
That's a head game that Dent guys have. Dave's absolutely right. That's a mental hump and a block that we need to get past. And we mentioned that on the last podcast. I remember talking about. I think somebody asked me a question. They said, "What's the hardest?" I think John, you asked me, "What's the hardest thing that a dent guy is going to have to overcome in adjusting and changing his pricing?"
That was Daniel's question, and
maybe it was Daniel's question. I'm sorry.
Yep, and getting used to saying the number.
It's getting your head wrapped around what you're worth, and that is a reasonable number for the work that we're doing, and then getting used to letting those numbers come off of your tongue, and not reacting awkwardly and like,
I can give you a quick little example of that. A quick little example of that is the body shop that I'm in right now. They use CCC, and for those of you who've only ever used some other form of app-based estimating system, CCC, Mitchell, Autotex, it's like working in Windows 98. I mean, it is archaic. It sucks. It is the flat-out worst. So he would have to do the math every time he wrote a hail estimate, and he wanted to write all the hail estimates. So he would do the math on a scratch pad and a calculator. Mm-hmm. So guess what happened to markups? It was too complicated. I'm like, okay, I can't do this. I'm back there supplement, and I'm like, look, we're wasting a lot of time. I just bought him a subscription to Mobile Tech RX. Oh, that's coming back to me in spades, boys.
Tenfold,
I am making money now, and I'm not having to sup anything. In fact, he sent me up there and to look one over that was really, really bad. And I took his phone away from him. He's like, no, I wanted to push the buttons. But now, I mean, he's not just doing one oversized dent. Now, if that dent is the size of 4 oversized dents, he's hitting it for 4 or 5 even. And I mean, he's getting all the numbers. He's matching my numbers on the PDR stuff. Yeah. And it's getting used to seeing those numbers. Before, he's like, $600 on a rail. Now I'm doing $600 push for paints on rails.
That's awesome.
What were you going to say, Dave? Dave, you wanted to say something?
No, I agree with John wholeheartedly.
Oh, okay.
And John's comment, was it 2 weeks ago, John? I think you said something along the lines of, it's beyond double oversize. You can't. It's not on the hail chart.
Right.
Now defer to the retail pricing. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah. And now I got him. I even have him doing that. And he's now using the pricing guide. He's got the copy that you've got, Dave. Same pocket copy.
Everybody's got it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so now they're on board. And now it's just even the company that I'm working for here, the local PDR company that I'm a subcontractor for, they're going to make money long after I'm gone.
Right.
Just by doing this with this one shot.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. No, oddly enough, I got a call today, and I get this call every once in a while, and this is something that you probably you get as well, Dave and Paul. I had a mom and pop dealership call me up, and they sent me a picture, and it was a crease about 6 inches long on the front fender. Someone else had already chewed it up. There's high spots all throughout the body line. And my reply to him was, someone already repaired it. I can only repair this 90% or better now. And he's like, okay, what's the wholesale price? Well, What do you mean, what's the wholesale price? Well, we're a dealership. Okay. So my response was something that I learned. I'm not sure if I heard it from Dave or if I heard it online on Facebook, but someone said there's a certain amount of cars that you need to provide me on a monthly basis to be considered a wholesale price. So I told them, well, you know what? You only get the wholesale price if you supply 15 cars minimum a month to get a wholesale price. Otherwise, you're paying retail. Now, do you find that to be crude or rude, or do you think that that's something that, is pretty accurate?
Depends if you want the account.
I don't want the account. I am 99.99999 retail. I do not want to go out to a mom and pop account and do a couple, 2, 3 cars a week.
And then you
come on, I know a lot of people. I can give you a lot of I can bring you a lot of business.
Exactly.
I know a lot of people.
Now,
fix this one for free. I'll bring you a whole bunch more to fix for free.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't care.
Yeah, and I'll give you your discount in 9 months when I get a whole bunch more.
It's a lease return. I only need it to look a little better.
So I think there's an option that's in the middle of wholesale pricing and retail. In a situation like that, I mean, that's a perfect situation to go, hey, listen, this is what the price would be on that dent. I can only fix it to 90%. So I'll give you a 10% discount. I'll charge you 90% of that retail number.
Yeah.
And I've been in situations where you have a retail customer who goes, oh, you can only fix it to 80%. Or no, they'll ask, hey, can you do anything with this? And I'm looking at this car going, oh my gosh, this thing's a train wreck.
Sure.
There's no way it's going to look right. I'm like, listen, and I usually, when my front office guy heard me say 75 to 80% improvement, he knew that meant it was going to look rough when it was done. And when I'd have a customer that really pushed me for that, I'd say 50 to 75 or 75 to 80. And then I would just go, listen, the best I can do is prorate my price to the percentage of improvement that I think I can make. And that's the best I can do. I don't like to do that. But if you're pushing me and telling me you absolutely aren't going to go to the body shop and you need me to do it, that's the best way that I know how to adjust my price for that quality of work. Yeah. But I hate that because then you're sending pigs out the door and your name's all over that. I don't prefer to do it, but
yeah.
What's that?
Is you need to just have two percentages, 90% and 80%.
Yeah.
And 80% could look like 50%.
Right.
When the customer asks you, that's what 80% looks like, you say yes.
Yep.
Is that like printing the price guide a little shorter?
Exactly.
Pretty much.
That's a great idea, but not changing the numbers on it.
Just scale it down.
That's what 80% looks like.
8 inches is actually about 6. It's perfect. You just got to raise.
That's awesome.
We've solved the problem.
That's right.
Hey, let's seriously get into the wholesale piece here with the dealership criteria. Is that all right?
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
That's what we're here for.
Share your magic.
There's no magic, Daniel. It's hard work.
There is magic. You've told me the magic. We brought you on the show to share the magic.
It's hard work and determination and a continual sales process from start to finish throughout the entire piece.
Well, Dave, start with one major thing that I know you do, and I want you to tell all our listeners. Do you get off at 1 o'clock a day? 1 o'clock in the afternoon every day? Do you go home?
It means off work.
Is this a real question?
Oh wait, I'm sorry. That went south. Are you done with your workday at 12 o'clock? Do you take an hour and a half lunch and then work for another hour and then go home at 1 o'clock? Do you maybe not want to work on Thursday because you want to go play the back nine in Scottsdale? Tell our listeners, you go to work every day, right?
I am probably more dedicated than most in this industry.
Sure. So first and foremost,
I don't mean that to sound arrogant or I'm touting my own horn, but if you want to be successful, I don't care what industry you're in, dedicate yourself to it and do it and jump in.
Absolutely.
Get your freaking ass in there and do it. And I had a conversation with 2 guys today. One was a porter and one was a body man. They're both young kids, nice young men. Don't get me wrong. But they were both on the hunt like, oh, this looks really cool. And the first words out of my mouth, and they kind of rubbed me the wrong way. The first words out of my mouth were, this isn't cool. This is a multi-billion-dollar industry. If you're serious about it, jump in, If not, don't tell me my new tool cart looks cool, all my shiny tools, all this, that, and the other. It's not this world.
Yeah.
It is hard work and dedication, and it is a true billion-dollar industry spanning the globe.
Yeah.
And that is what it is, and everybody that's in it knows it.
But
I agree.
Get out.
But Dave,
I had a guy question me about my tools, and I pointed to my tower of power. I've got an aluminum hot box, a steel hot box, and a power PDR all in a big heavy cart. I'm like, that's $8,000.
There's 5
right
Gs,
there.
10 Gs, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's not a game for
This
me.
is not a game.
This is my
not
life.
Cool.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, that looks like cool. Looks like something cool to do. And again, these guys are a little younger. Don't get me wrong, but I'm very passionate about it. And I said, listen, if you're serious, I got 3 guys I'll put you in touch with for training, and that's it. And these are the 3 guys I trust implicitly. But guess what? This is not your $500 3-day train a mill going in SoCal next to Vince's house.
Right.
This is serious, day in and day out, hands-on. If you want to learn and learn right, jump in, make the investment in your future, and then do it.
But
And
in all
invest the
honesty, hold on, John.
Sorry.
Dave,
I got off tangent.
your tool cart is freaking awesome.
It's very nice.
It's the brand new tool.
Don't get off subject.
Yeah.
Shout out to
Shout out
Kevin
to
Andrews,
TDN, Kevin Andrews. You know,
and the
you
first
just
one
got
made with the drawer.
Yes, you have the first one with the drawer.
Don't get off topic.
Sorry.
So
okay,
let me
carry on.
So I'll tell you my experience. So I want to wholeheartedly say that's exactly how I feel, Dave. I'm with you. I agree with you.
We're
And
all
I-
passionate this way.
I've had so many people come up to me in a body shop or on a dealer lot in the past, and they would all same thing. The sparkles in their eyes of what we're doing, and and their question to me would always be, well, how much can you make doing this business? Can you make a lot of money? And my answer is always, yeah. Guess what? You can make a lot of money, but you know where else you can make a lot of money? In the body shop industry, and in the detail industry, and in any of the other auto-related industries that are out there. You can make a lot of money at any of those things. It just depends on how hard you want to work.
Exactly.
And really,
And
what
smart.
I'm saying by saying that is I'm not trying to throw them off the trail. Like, hey, if you want to be a dent guy, that's fine. Let's have that conversation and figure that out. But at the end of the day, it comes down to how hard are you going to apply yourself to whatever it is that you're doing? Because I guarantee you, any guy in any industry that we can point to has the opportunity to be successful or not if they're willing to put the time, the energy, and the effort into it and stick with it when it comes down to it.
Okay,
I had a guy.
let's get back on subject. Let's
Sorry.
get back on wholesale. Sorry, John, but I want to stay.
No.
I want to stay
Yeah.
focused on this.
Focus.
So
I gotta go. Sorry, guys.
yeah, exactly.
Show's over.
So, Dave, share with us what you do, and in the wholesale.
Yeah, walk us through your wholesale day.
Here's my wholesale. Go ahead, Daniel. I'm listening.
So, I really want to try to capture what you're doing different that you can share with other guys.
I think there are 3 or 4 components that I integrate, and I believe have now kind of become a natural move, if you will. And it's not the easiest thing. Again, back to Paul's point, you got to get your head around it. But you've got to do a few things to set the stage. And back to my original point, this is a business. And as John said, we're not the schmo here. This is a business. And so there's 3 or 4 things that I believe are keys on the wholesale piece. In addition, then, to you need to back it up with quality work and be, good at your job, so you can prove why they need to use you rather than the 100 guys that are standing behind you. Certainly in the fair weather markets, LA, Phoenix, Miami, Texas, etc. But a couple of these things are, price obviously is a big issue. It's forefront on a lot of people's minds, but we've gotten away from the fact that we are a savings over conventional repair. And so we've become viewed as a reconditioning cost rather than the savings. And so that becomes a pre and a post sell that you need to continue to remind your customer, hey gang, I'm still saving you money. This is still cheaper than sending it down the road, even to Rudy's body shop, who's going to paint it for peanuts because he's got a bunch of hired hands in the back that he's paying cash to, and it's all illegitimate business. You've got to reinforce the fact that we're saving money, in multiple ways, not just on the conventional repair, but on your cycle time. How long is that car going to be gone if it goes to the body shop, things of that nature. And so a couple things I do differently is, first off, you've got to quantify, and Paul said this 2 weeks ago. Paul, your credit, not mine, but this is what I do. You got to quantify what you're doing for the price. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Does everybody understand that?
Yeah.
So on my
but give us an example.
As an example, and on my wholesale pricing guide, and I print this off, so it's on my letterhead, it's got my logo, it's professional. And so if I go to solicit a new account, I've got 3 or 4 things with me to present, maybe 5 or 6, depending on what you do. But you've got your wholesale pricing guide. In theory, if I'm soliciting a dealer, all right, I've got my wholesale pricing structure guide, as I call it. It's on my letterhead, and I'll get into that in a minute. I walk in also with my proof of insurance. I walk in with my W-9, and I walk in with my IMI certificate. End of discussion. There's nobody that has that information ready for their customer immediately.
Yep.
And then if you're feeling froggy, you can walk in, and I do some postcards before and after. And I've got a little nickname here in the Valley. They call me Big Dent Dave. That's another issue. But I walk in with some big before and after photos, some non-customary damage, if you will. And listen, if your current provider isn't capable or able to do this, maybe you have the wrong guy. So you've got this whole arsenal of information ready to present as your business. And it is your business. So you walk in, you've got your pricing structure set, you've got your thing, but you're going to quantify what you're going to do at the price. So my example, Daniel, is this, and I'm going to read from my wholesale guide. And I don't want to get into specific numbers because that's very regional, very market driven. And you might be at $75 here, you might be 100 there, you might be at 45 here, depending where you are. I fully appreciate that, but you've got to quantify what you're going to do for that number. And so my guide reads as such: for up to 10 dings and dents per vehicle, defined as this: no larger than 2 inches in diameter, with no broken paint or sharp creases. That defines my usual and customary rate for a wholesale cleanup price. Does everybody follow that?
Yeah.
Does that make
Say
sense?
that one more time.
Yeah.
I love that. Say
Okay.
it one more time.
Up to 10 dings or dents per vehicle, no larger than 2 inches in diameter, with no broken paint or sharp creases. On top of that, then I add on to this: note, aluminum and high-strength steel cars subject to 25% increase plus R&I if necessary.
God,
Nice.
I hope everybody lets that sink in, what he just said. That's the standard everybody needs to adopt right now.
This is a guide, and again, if you get into a dealership or an account, whatever the account is, and they're providing you volume, obviously you're going to go above and beyond. You're going to give them 110%, and that's obviously a decision you need to make in your market. But beyond that 2-inch mark, that's where I draw the line. And again, back to your credit, Paul, you said it 2 weeks ago. You've got to define what you're doing for your wholesale price. Again, whatever that
Absolutely.
number may be, and draw the line in the sand. And again, when you go in and you present this to begin with, you already are starting this business relationship. And I'm going to come back to that in a minute. Beyond that 2-inch piece, then I go into non-customary damage beyond 2 inches. Okay. And okay, maybe I'm drawing the line a little small, but I'm going to draw it. I can waver on that 2 to 3 inch if I need to. It's a good customer. You guys make that decision. You guys and girls make that decision in your market as need be. But then non-customary damage, I start at 2 to 4 inches and creases up to 5 inches. And that goes up, in my book, about 25% per each dent at that size from my wholesale base price, my cleanup base price, so to speak. And I think everybody's kind of in this whole car pricing mentality. Some guys still have a panel price. There's a lot of markets that are wholesale or a whole car panel price on a used car lot. And then the next category becomes dents 5 to 8 inches and creases up to 8 inches. And that goes up another percentage. Again, you guys make the line in the sand however you need in your market. I'll be happy to disclose what I do here. There's no secret. And then the next quantifier beyond that is dents 8 to 12 inches, increases up to 12 inches.
Now, you don't have competition for that.
Ding, ding, ding. And
right.
There is where I double from my last quantifying level.
Yeah.
So I literally double from the 5 to 8 to the 8 to 12, which doesn't necessarily double in size.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
And then roof panels, excluding hail damage, we're adding another 25% for SUV and large roofs. But then roof damage, I have 3 quantifiers. Light damage, I lied to you. I'm sorry. I have 4 quantifiers: a light, a moderate, a heavy, and an extreme bid-only damage. And that's going to apply, and I'm not going to knock anybody here, but that applies at your Chevy store that buys a truckload of cars from Enterprise. Okay?
Yeah.
This is not for your Mercedes dealer because they're not getting roofs that are walked on from the rental industry.
Sure.
But I've got this quantifying piece. And beyond that, you've drawn the lines in the sand. And so now when you go in or somebody says, wait a minute, why is it so much? The simple answer, and this is a business answer, and everybody's got to get callous to this business mentality. Hey, we agreed on this. This is set pricing. Day one, when I walked in, I showed you my pricing parameters, and you said, this sounds great. Or you threw me out, whatever it is. But hey, this sounds great. And you can refer back to that. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, I've added, where is it? Preferred pricing. So this is my preferred pricing, but you're going to get this if you're giving me 15 cars a week. Now, that seems like a lot of vehicles per an account, but again, this is a guide and you need to cater it and style it to your market, your dealership size, your customer account size. And some places are going to sell 200 used cars a month and some places are selling 40. You've got to scale it so that it makes sense in your market and your dynamic. But you've now quantified what you're expecting in order for you to give them that wholesale price.
Yeah. Now, and Dave, are you throwing in new cars for free?
No, sir.
No. Okay. So you're charging for new cars. So now let me ask you this. Let's role play a little bit. I'm Ishmael from the Toyota dealership in Scottsdale, and you come in here with this.
Yes.
And you throw it down in front of me. I got, guys out on the sales floor selling cars and this and that. And how do you capture their attention long enough to pitch all that to them? Are you asking them for a meeting? Hey, could I have a sit down? Can I meet with you for an hour? Or are you like full on cold calling? Or are you waiting for them to call you like, you know what? We need Big Dent Dave. We heard he's the man that does the big stuff. So you come in there and the first time you're walking in the door, it's like, this is my guide. Take it or leave it.
I think again, that's a variable, Vince. What's your dynamic? Do you need to cold call? Or are you waiting for them to call you?
Yeah.
I think there are multiple ways to play that.
Well, there are some of our listeners that, they're new to the industry. They might have gone through Ding King. They're trying to recoup their $10,000 investment for
they're doomed
5 days of training or 2 weeks of training, whatever it is. They're listening to us right now and they're like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. I
don't know what quantify means.
Sure. And what I don't want them to do is go in there and say, I'll do all your cars for $50 a car. And what you're laying down is beautiful. And this is what should be adapted across, the nation, whatever the pricing structure for their market. But however, your approach is perfect. But I'm trying to play devil's advocate. I'm totally on board with everything you're saying. However, I'm Mohammed or Ishmael, the used car manager. And how do you start that conversation? How do you start that conversation? How do you grab their attention to lay down what you're saying?
I think you need to do some research on the customer you're going to go after.
Okay.
First and foremost, and decide what it is you want to do. Where do you want to be in the industry? How do you want to position yourself? This is your business. How do you want to position yourself for the future and for the business as you see it, for your business as you see it? Do you want to walk in willy-nilly and throw a business card down and say, hi, I'm Dave and I fix dents? Get out. I've got 2 guys behind you, plus my normal guy.
Right. And then you walk out the door with your tail between your legs.
Do you? No, you don't. You stay in there because you're a bull in the china shop, and you say, listen, I know you got 2 more guys behind me. What day's good next week for me to come in and see you?
Right. Yeah.
Don't give them the option.
Yeah.
When you don't give them the option, they can't say no. You've just taken the option to throw you out of their mind. No. What day is good next week for me to come back and talk to you? Now, they may give you their day off, and they might give you the runaround, but there's some simple things like that. Hey, what day is good next week for me to come and walk your lot? I know you. Okay, I know you're using Vince. I know Daniel's a backup. I know John's a third backup. I know you got a 4th backup. It's Paul. Well, I'm Dave. What day is good next week for me to come by and talk to you? You take the option to throw you out of their mind. They can't say no. You're telling them what day. You're asking them what day, as an example. So whether it's that, or if you set a meeting, or by asking that question, you say, listen, I value your time. I'd like to set something up. Is early morning good before you start? Should I, can we meet for lunch? Whatever it might be. There's variables to get over that hurdle, whether they be an email, a phone call. You set it up in a calendar. You send them an invite through a calendar app. You walk in unannounced. Everybody walks in unannounced. These people are used to that. The banks, the credit people, the windshield people, the warranty people, they all walk in unannounced. It is what
Go ahead, Paul.
I've got a question for Dave. I think I'm gonna go out on a limb and say I think I know what your answer is going to be, but I'm curious to know, and I think it'll be valuable for everybody else to hear. When you're on the lot and you've been told, hey, I've got this unit, I need you to look at it. And let's say you've got a panel in your first quantifying category, and then you've got a panel in the second and maybe third. What is your process at that point? And let's say that this is the manager doesn't know about this damage. They just know this is a unit that they want cleaned up. What do you do at that? What is your process from the time that you go and look at the car to the time that you have go in to get the approval? What does that look like? What are all those steps?
And this is a unit you say the manager has not seen, but he knows needs to be repaired.
Yeah, let's say it's a unit that he knows he wants fixed, and he sends you out to the lot, and you find a dent that's in the first category, the second category, third category. What does your process look like step by step, figuring that out and laying that out before you go talk to him?
Given today's technology, again, let's just assume he's the desk jockey, okay, and he doesn't go out to see his vehicles, and that's why he doesn't know the damage on it. Hey, you've got a smartphone. Take some photos. I've got a ruler in my car. We've got the ruler on the price guide. Why not make use of that and say, here's what you've got. You've got these normal door dings that's going to cost you $75, $100, whatever your price is, to do your normal and customary cleanup. On panel B, you've got this that exceeds my normal pricing guide. And let's just, I don't know, Paul, have I already presented him the pricing guide or not?
Yeah, possibly, but you and I both know the manager is never going to remember the pricing.
That's out the
you
door.
Just want,
exactly.
Yeah, I want to know how you're basically, presenting. What are the steps that you do in order to, and you're going through it right now, so continue.
I make use of my cell phone on my camera, or my camera on my cell phone, because we've got this technology, and they take great photos. Mm-hmm. Anymore, we all know how to capture a great image of the damage and show what it is. And you walk in and you say, listen, this is what you've got on panel B and panel C, or, quantifying levels 2 and 3. Here's where we are. So now you've got your normal cleanup, but this one has this damage that's sized at X and the price is X. And this one's priced at X and is sized at X, sized at X and priced at X. Here's your total. Now, are you getting volume from the store or not? You've got to take that into consideration. You may want to draw a cap on what you charge because you're getting significant volume, and you're not going to jeopardize blowing them out of the water with a $700 or $800 bill in a used car.
Now, when you're quantifying the damage,
reason, right? Does that make sense?
And that's I think that's perfectly reasonable. Obviously, volume kind of it changes things,
especially in the wholesale only market.
Yes.
Are you using
is so important?
Are you using your price guide in the pictures on the damage to kind of quantify the fact that they are, they exceed the typical damage and they're within this size range? So in other words, are you using? You said you have a ruler, so I assume you use a ruler in your pictures to show them, hey, this is actually a 3-inch dent or this is a 5-inch dent.
If you have a manager that is kind of anal that way, yes, I would do that.
Okay.
I have done that. I have a service advisor at one of my Highline stores who thinks everything is one price. And he's just, it is what it is. Whether he doesn't see it, I'm not going to get into that argument with the guy. But I'm going to lay the price guide, or back to your credit, the price guide with the ruler across it and go, hey, look, I'm not going to name names, but hey, look, Mo, this is a 5-inch dent. This is not your normal door ding for your normal price. You need to make sure you price it accordingly. And again, I'll eat a lot of crow and I'll back up a lot of what these guys sell for a time or 2 or 3 and gently persuade them. Again, we're taking a long time to turn this ship. It's not going to happen tomorrow. But hey, here's what I want you to see. There's a way to gently, to coddle these people and put it to them gently and say, I'm going to do this, whether it's used car, service car, et cetera. I'm going to do this. I'm going to give this to you. I'm going to back you up. This is going to be a great deal for you. But in the future, you need to be aware that this is the price. And moving forward, we need to capture that. Or if it's the used car piece, hey, gang, here's what I'm doing. This is what I'm saving you. In addition to that, I'm saving you the cycle time. Oh, wait a minute. Your cheap dent guy turned it down? That's another conversation. But hang on. How long would that be gone? Now, where's your availability to sell the car? I'm going to have it ready for you by this afternoon. It's going to be ready for you guys to sell immediately. There's no lag time. There's value that you need to consider with that as well, and build in to the fact that you might be 15 or 20 bucks higher than your competitor.
Yep. So let me make a suggestion, because I think what you're saying is spot on. This isn't a suggestion for you, Dave, as much as it is for guys who want to start turning the ship in their wholesale markets. Okay. And I've said this before in some of the seminars, and when we talk about sales and things like that, people buy what they can see. Okay. And because we are not good at documenting and justifying what we're asking, why we're asking for the price that we're asking for, or we haven't been, we're getting better as an industry. But let me recommend that if you want to start turning the ship in your wholesale market, and you're going to follow Dave's steps here, which I think are phenomenal, it's a great place to start for sure. Then I would say start to document the dents that you're doing that go outside of the coverage that you've established, and start showing them. Remember, they don't typically buy what they can't see, right? So if you can show them and qualify why you're asking this price for this dent by putting the price guide in the picture, maybe taking an auto writer and marking out the edges of the dent, and then showing a picture of that dent in relation to something that has a measurement on it. What you can do then is show the manager the types of dents that you have been fixing. Maybe you're giving him that one for free that day, or maybe you're giving it to him for the coverage price because he's not used to the new pricing yet. But at least what you're doing is you're starting, and I almost think you might be smart to put the SRP in there. The suggested retail price is this dollar figure, and then in the picture below that, your discount is this price for this dent. So it's all there in one photo where he sees the size of the dent, the price, the suggested retail price, and the discounted price, until you've moved that ship along enough and gotten them trained on those numbers to start going, hey, listen, this is the category that it's in, and this is the price that we charge for that category. But I mean, what people can see, they can justify spending money on. And so my encouragement to you guys is start showing the managers exactly what you're able to do, the size of the dents that are on their cars. Because I guarantee you half of the managers go, oh, I don't buy crappy cars with 5-inch dents in them. You know what I mean? That's what they all think. But you and I both know that we can walk around most lots and find stuff that's bigger than 2-3 inches all day long. Sometimes
that's great advice.
Way bigger than that. So it might be a suggestion to start turning that ship,
John, do you want to say something?
Yeah. Going right along that lines, Paul, and talking about the non-standard damage like that. Dustin Carson's with Texas Dent Works had come to me with an idea. And what he does on his dealers on that non-standard large dent damage is he gives them a couple of different prices. Hey, this is a really bad dent, and he's working in the Austin market, and there's a lot of dent guys in that Austin market. It's a heavy market. So he's like, hey, this is really bad damage. If I get it roughed out, make it passable, it's going to cost you this. If it starts glassing and I can make this thing perfect, you're paying this.
That's what you call, John, that's what you call do you want regular dent removal or do you want deluxe?
But it's working because he's talented. He can make the dent disappear. So he ends with that higher number. But he starts at that dealer at the number that dealer was comfortable with. And he moves them up to that next level. So as they start and the relationship grows, then just dumping that lower dollar amount later on. Hey, I know I'm nailing this one. It's going to cost you this.
Okay. You know why that's important, John, is because I came from sales. So I used to sell cars. Sometimes, and if you've been around car lots enough, you guys all know this, is that sometimes they buy the car right and sometimes they don't. Yep. And if they're in the car right, they'll spend more money. And so you don't know that going in sometimes. And you want to align yourself with that car manager and say, hey, this car has this much damage on it. But this is a high-end car. This is a BMW. It's not a Hyundai. So, this car needs to be right. Are you in the car right? How do I make this right for you? And you start aligning yourself with that car manager. Start putting yourself in his shoes. But you're also speaking in his business terms. Exactly. And you're trying to align yourself and trying to make the deal work for both of you rather than you just selling. But in the back of that manager's mind, he's like, I paid way too much money for this car. And that's all he's thinking about is like, I can't sell it for that. There's no way I'm going to make that happen. And if you're not aligning yourself with them, you're not going to find out that information and work with him. One of the other things I want to bring up, I was talking to Mike Toledo and about this whole subject. And one of the things he brought up is the one key is making friends with the owner of the dealership. If you want to edge out any of your other competitors, if you've got an in with the owner and that owner will align with you, then you're not going to get edged out of that account.
Well, the only bad side of that is where I'm at, most of them are owned by dealer groups. So the chances
that's a bad thing.
Yeah. So, that might work in Tennessee or Arkansas or someplace like that.
Wyoming.
But, in major markets, they're owned by dealer groups. AutoNation is huge out here and a few other ones. But yeah, you're absolutely right.
But if you get the chance, do it.
Yeah.
Do.
Oh,
take him to coffee. Take him to lunch. Whatever.
Know everybody. You have to know everybody.
Sure.
Yep.
But you're showing them that your business understands their business.
Yes. And back to the business piece, when you get into a situation and you're being tossed around or your time's not being accounted for or valued by your customer, maybe you're not getting that volume metric that you requested on your pricing sheet, etc. You need to revisit that. And again, back to the business. This is business. And so now I'm not getting 10, 12, 15 cars a week out of you. And you want to go back in the office, you want to look up every car, to your point, Daniel, to see where you are in it. Oh, I'm upside down on this one. Oh, blah, blah, blah. Hang on, gang. Hang on. I'm coming in at cut rate wholesale pricing on a volume basis for a volume piece from you. I want 15 cars a week, and I'm giving you $75, $80 a car, whatever the number is for you. That 75 or 80 doesn't make or break a car deal. But you need to revisit it then with your customer. And whether it's a quarterly business review or an annual piece or a piece when your volume slips, you come back in and you say, wait a minute, hang on. We have an agreement here. I've already given you my parameters. Let me refresh your memory. You print the page out again. Again, there's a nice way to do it. My voice doesn't carry the message I want to deliver, but there's a nice way to do it and say, I'd like to revisit this with you. We're in a situation where your volume is falling short and you're about to lose your wholesale pricing. I don't think you want that to happen. there's a way to talk them through and get them to buy back in.
Sure.
And say, listen, I want to remind you again, I'm expecting for $80 a car or $70 or $60. It's your number in your market, your business. It's a business. For that pricing, I need 10 cars a week, 15 cars a week. And right now we're falling short of that. So I'd like to see where you are sales wise. Are you guys falling behind? It gives you the opportunity to come back and readdress it and make changes if necessary. And again,
I think another way to handle that, though, if you're using software, you give them 20% discount, 25% discount, and once they hit that volume mark, now they move into a 30% mark.
That's a great
discount.
one. That's right.
And so you're not having to do that argument. You're circumventing that.
I've also seen that done with body shops as well. Not just car dealers, body shops as well.
Yeah, definitely.
At that rate, if you're doing 100 cars a month, it's free.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Never gets up above that X%.
But the point is, it's a business though, and you've got to get this business mindset and treat it like that, because it gives you an opportunity to go back and readdress it with your customer. Yes, it's awkward. Yes, it's difficult to speak for some people. It's difficult to be polished and walk and talk and do it all. But for those that do and can implement it, you'll be very successful. And
the rewards are huge.
The rewards are massive.
Well, and remember, most dealership managers, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, Dave. Most dealership managers and principals they're business-minded people anyway. And I think what happens when you're willing to step up in business fashion and address those things, they start to look at you with a bit more respect, and it builds a rapport with them as a businessman. So it only stands to kind of strengthen your position with them as a business-to-business relationship. So I wholeheartedly agree with that. And going back to a few of the things you were mentioning in regards to sales. I mean, sales is huge. Unfortunately, the reality is, in the world, you always need to be selling, even to your dealerships that you think you have locked down. Because at the end of the day, what you guys were talking about is getting to know your client and then getting to speak in your client's language, getting to address your client's actual needs and show them that you care about what their needs or desires or goals are. And that's important in any market, regardless of whether you're in the wholesale, retail, hail market. You should always be practicing that as a person who's in this business. But those things are so, I mean, to be very honest with you, if more guys did them, you would have a lot harder, difficult job in competition, being that one guy. But listen, I think we all are in markets where we probably stand out of the crowd of dent guys that are in our markets for a reason, because we practice those things on a regular basis.
I think you nailed it right there too, because if you're listening to our podcast and PDR College and you're educating yourself on your business and growing your business, you care about your business. And that's what I hope all our listeners are doing right now. You're bettering yourself, you're bettering your business, and you're growing. And that's why we're here. We're all five of us are very passionate about our industry that we're in. And we bring you this knowledge week in and week out, not for monetary value. And I bring that up every week now, don't I? We're here.
Yeah, wait a second. Somebody's getting paid?
Right? Who's getting paid here?
Who's getting paid?
If you pay, you'll pay attention.
Exactly. We want you all to pay attention, and we want the younger generation to come up a lot easier than what, the school of hard knocks that we've gone through to learn all this stuff on our own. We had no one before us teaching us.
We paved the way. We paved the way, and now we're trying to make sure that the next generation coming behind us understands it is a true business.
Yeah.
I mean, the money that we make in PDR is the money that we're going to make, and you get to dictate and you get to decide that. What other profession do you get to decide your daily income?
Yeah.
PDR is it. I set a goal. I set goals. I have daily, weekly, and monthly goals. Always.
Sure.
So important.
And man,
yeah.
Some days, I got done early today, 5:45. Sweet. Killed it. And I crushed my daily goal. I blew it completely out of the water. In fact, I set a whole new level for the storm that I'm on. But
nice.
I've still set that goal. And it's like, okay, And I'm coming back. I got doctor's appointments tomorrow, so I'm taking Friday off. I have Friday, Saturday as my weekend, and I'm back in the shop on Sunday.
Yeah.
And I'm working Sunday through Thursdays.
And I've talked to Daniel about this. When we go to MTE the last couple, 2-3 years, it's exciting seeing these younger technicians coming up. They're learning faster. They got the proper tools. They're not starting from dirt. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's the foundation already built. There's framing already done, and now they're jumping into this business. So
now we got to teach the business.
The business. Get down to business.
Well, let me just say, because I know we're running out of time. I want to say, man, Dave, I really appreciated getting to know you a little bit better on this podcast and hearing what your passion is about. Because I couldn't agree with you more on everything that you'd said. And I think guys would be wise to take that format that Dave laid out and start to apply it to their wholesale accounts, because I think it's a phenomenal start. I mean, Dave's put a lot of time and thought into it, I can tell. And gosh, man, for a guy who's been in the business almost 30 years, you might want to listen to him.
Right.
Can we call this the Dave Wholesale Pricing Guide? And we'll get it in little laminated cards, Dave. And that's
I'd be happy to share it with whomever needs it.
Yeah. Well,
feel free to reach out. Everybody knows how to reach Daniel and Vince. I've got a Facebook page, Big Dent Dave. Send me a message.
Yeah. Dave's always willing to listen to and talk to other dent guys. Dave's a good guy. Paul's a good guy. My whole idea was to put these two guys together because they're awesome brains in this industry, and I really wanted this. They're very passionate, and they know what they're doing. And all 5 of us know what we're doing. We're all successful in this industry for many, many years. If you put all the numbers together, it's probably well over 100 years. Easily with the 5 guys sitting here right now.
My hope
I'm starting to feel like a dink.
You right?
Yeah. My hope is that we're going to look back on this day. Wholesale guys are going to look back on this day as the start of the wholesale movement and getting that to move to get people's prices up.
Absolutely. Hey, and share your stories with us.
Yeah.
What worked in your market? Leave out the dollars. We don't need the dollars, just like Dave was saying. We don't need the dollars, but share your story. Hey, how did you turn your ship? How did you change the guidance, change course, and get what it is that you wanted on your wholesale?
I think the more that the community of dent guys that's online will do that, the more it helps other guys to take that first step and move towards it when they see that it's a real thing. I'll tell you, when I remember seeing some of Sal Contreras' big dent repairs back in the day when I was a younger tech, and thinking to myself, okay, if he can do that, and not just Sal, but Kaz and a couple other guys, if that's fixable, that means that I can do that. Now I just got to figure out, how do I get from here to there? So show me that it's possible, and my personality is I'm going to figure out how to get it done. Exactly. And I think what Dave is showing us here is that it's definitely possible to turn a wholesale gig into a very lucrative, very profitable business if you get that format right. And I think that's a great start.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna have Dave send me a copy of his plan, because I know a couple of wholesale accounts that need some help with that. And I encourage everybody to maybe look into that as well, and then tell the story. Tell the story publicly. Tell it to these guys so they can post it on the podcast.
Yeah.
Wholesale gets shoved in the back like it's the redheaded stepchild of the dent world, and really it's not. It was ultimately the forefront,
the driving force.
Foundation.
Yeah. And there are guys who are killing it all over the country in wholesale. There are guys even out of the country that are killing it in wholesale. So it should not be the redheaded stepchild. It should be respected and revered, but maybe some people need some help figuring out how to make it that.
Yeah.
There are so many people that have gravitated towards, and no offense, Paul and anyone else, Vince, Daniel, that have gravitated towards hail and retail. And I believe, looking at that, there's going to be a shortage of very qualified technicians to perform in the wholesale market, because so many guys have made their change in their business structure because they've not treated it as a business on the wholesale end. Mm-hmm. And no offense, that's not my point, but I think there's a shortage, and so there's a window of opportunity on that wholesale side. And I walked away from a perfectly great gig in Chicago. Nobody knows this, but this is the truth. I walked away from the Wiz after 23 years in Chicago. I left the auction just pulled up and said, "That's it, we're done." Right before Dent was sold again, and I said, the honeymoon's over. And I walked out here. I didn't walk. That's a lie. I moved out to Phoenix, and I started from scratch and started knocking on doors. So my point is, even in a market like Phoenix that has a lot of competition, a lot of technicians, it can be done. But it's not going to happen overnight, and it didn't happen overnight for me. It took me 9 months to get the Chrysler account I have. Who wants a Chrysler account? Well,
right.
They're very loyal. They're fiercely loyal that way. So it was worth that battle in the fight, but it can be done. And I think we can start to steer that ship in the right direction, but everybody's got to buy in.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I think that wraps it up with the bow.
I think so.
This was a great discussion. We want to continue this discussion. We want to keep bringing this subject up and keep hammering it until it finally takes. So hopefully this is the first step of that. And I want to thank all you guys for coming on the show tonight. We went over time, but it was well worth it.
Yeah. And what I want to say is, you guys contact me privately and you contact Daniel and possibly John and stuff like that. But feel free to start this conversation on our website. I'm sorry, on our Facebook page. Talk about wholesale. Talk about getting these prices up.
Other groups too.
In the other groups.
Let's get wholesale.
There's
out
no
there.
other groups. What are you talking about?
Let's get wholesale out there, and let's start talking about improving on that wholesale end of it.
Yeah,
It can be done.
Because
We can
overall,
change the world, gentlemen.
We
We can
can.
change the world.
we're going to start with Dave Schaulat. He has changed the world.
Yes.
I'm happy to help. Anybody, please feel free to reach out to me, send me a message, etc. And again, I'll send you whatever I've got. Feel free to plug the numbers in as you see fit in your own markets.
Well, Dave,
To start.
if you actually have that written down, I could actually put it on or Daniel could put it on our show notes, and people could actually put their eyes to what you're talking about.
Of course.
Yeah.
So, we could change the world.
Change the
All right,
world.
guys. That brings us to the end of our show. We appreciate everything that you guys did tonight. I just want to say one thing. Please level up your tools.
Don't do stupid stuff.
And peace out.
This has been another episode of PDR Tool Time.